Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into something pretty extraordinary, a detailed, step-by-step blueprint for what the first 180 days of a new Iran could look like. It's this incredibly ambitious attempt to actually plan for a post-revolutionary future. It's a question that just echoes through history, right? When a regime collapses, what rises from the ashes? Is it chaos? A power vacuum? Or can there be a clear path forward? This is arguably one of the greatest challenges in politics. It's not just about winning a revolution, it's about building the nation that comes next. But what if there was a plan? What if a group of experts actually sat down and tried to map out every single step right from day one? Well, that is exactly what we're exploring today. One very specific, very detailed answer to that huge question. Okay, so let's dive right into the blueprint itself. Let's figure out what it is, who's behind it, and what it's really trying to do. So this blueprint is called the Iran Prosperity Project, or IPP for short. It was put together by the National Union for Democracy in Iran. That's NUFDI. And it was drafted by a whole group of experts, both inside and outside the country. And their mission? To create a practical, actionable playbook for how to stabilize and rebuild Iran the moment a transition begins. And listen, this isn't just some dry logistical document. The mission statement itself is really aspirational. It's all about helping people imagine and realize the full potential of a free and prosperous Iran. And that vision, that core idea, is really the engine behind all the nitty-gritty details that follow. So to really get this plan, the authors use this fantastic analogy. They call it a three-layer cake. The first layer is the emergency phase, those critical first 100 to 180 days. The second is the transitional period, which covers the first couple of years. And the third is the long-term vision. For this explainer, we're going to laser focus on that critical first layer, the immediate aftermath. So let's zoom right in on that first layer, the first critical days. What has to happen immediately to keep the country from just spiraling into chaos? The plan singles out 5 immediate pillars to prevent a total collapse. First up, security, getting control of the military and the police. But at the exact same time, you've got to keep the lights on, making sure basic government services and social safety nets keep running. And then, to stop an economic meltdown, you need a temporary legal framework and immediate financial stability. You can see how each piece is absolutely crucial for holding the whole thing together. And this is where you really see the level of foresight they put into this. The plan doesn't just kick in on day one. It actually says that before the fall, a secret parallel leadership structure should already be in place, a national uprising council and an executive team. The members would stay anonymous, for their own safety, right up until the moment of transition. Okay, so who would actually be in charge once that moment arrives? Well, that brings us right to our third section, the new power structure. The blueprint calls for an immediate transitional system with 3 clear branches. You'd have the National Uprising Council, which would basically act as a temporary parliament, passing laws and so on. Then there's the transitional government, the executive branch, running the country day to day. And finally, the transitional divan, which would serve as the judiciary. It's that classic separation of powers, but designed specifically for an emergency. Now, here's a key detail. While you have these 3 separate branches, the plan says they would all operate under one single unifying figure. The document proposes Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi for this role of leader of the national uprising. His proposed job would be to approve the heads of all 3 branches, creating a central point of authority to keep things stable during that incredibly fragile transition. But look, this whole temporary setup, it's not meant to last. It's just a bridge. Which brings us to what is maybe the most vital part of the entire blueprint. Section 4, the people's mandate. How do you actually hand power over to the people? So the plan maps out this really clear step-by-step path to democracy. First, 2 huge referendums to let the people decide on the biggest questions. Then an election to create a constituent assembly, a group whose only job is to write a brand new constitution. After that, that new constitution gets put to the people for a vote, and if it passes, you get to the final step, the very first official parliamentary elections. So that first massive question put to the people is super fundamental. How do you want to be governed? The plan proposes putting 2 options to a national vote within just 4 months. Option 1, A democratic monarchy, kind of like you see in the UK or Spain. Option 2, a democratic republic with an elected president, like in France or the United States.
And at the exact same time, they'd ask another incredibly profound question, one that every single post-revolutionary society has to grapple with. How do you deal with the past? The people would vote on two paths. One is public trials for former leaders overseen by a truth commission. The other option is a national amnesty, with the idea being to move forward more quickly. It's a huge choice between justice and reconciliation.
Okay, so that's the roadmap, from a secret council all the way to a fully elected government. So let's look at the final section. From plan to reality? So how long would this whole thing even take? The plan estimates that this entire process, from the day the old regime falls to the day a new constitutionally elected government is sworn in, would take somewhere between 18 and 36 months. So 1.5 to 3 years to build an entirely new political reality from the ground up.
And you know, what we've just talked about, that is barely scratching the surface. The full document is hundreds of pages long, and it goes into incredible detail on, well, everything, from the military chain of command and foreign policy to completely reforming the national budget and literally writing new school textbooks. It is an extraordinary exercise in planning.
But of course, a plan is just that, a plan, a blueprint on paper. And it leaves us with the ultimate question, one that goes way beyond any document. For Iran, or for any nation in transition, what does it truly take to turn a blueprint like this into a lasting, stable, and prosperous country? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining the Explainer.